Next year, going to rest Tex?
Is that the first one? Well, not sure yet. We will at some point during the year. That was the plan. It's more about the impact that he's having for us and the team performance. But we'll train today. Have a look at training. He'll train and then we'll make a decision off the back of that.
How much is the thought process? Obviously, it's a longer break into this game, but then it's a 6-day break into the Swans game.
Yeah, we're always looking a few games out when it comes to that. I'm working with players, so we've got a couple of 6-day breaks actually after that, Sydney into Brizzy. But our players aren't getting that far ahead. They're in the now, so as a coaching group, they will keep a close eye. It comes back to team and individual. We're looking at both as we've done right throughout this year.
How much is it important to keep aside from a structure perspective? I mean, obviously we went off the ground in the third quarter and they hold up okay, but how much does that factor into the thinking as well?
Structure, conditions, opposition, matchups, everything comes into account. And then Tex and I sitting down and talking openly around what we feel is best for the team. That's the space we're in at the moment.
Do you look back on the weekend and think maybe playing the 3 tools might not have been the right option considering the conditions? No. Coming in, we felt that was our strongest side, for the way the game played out. Got a little wetter after half-time. We knew we had the sub available and sort of Sam Berry, his ability to impact. We knew we were able to take one out if that played through that way. The risk was an injury early to a small or a mid. There's always risks around decisions we make. That's part of the job. So it played out as we'd hoped on the weekend. There are other areas in the game we didn't get right. We've spent this week again working through. When you lose by a kick or two, and some of the things that start to add up, there's 5 or 6 moments in the game, key moments where our opposition were better than us.
With all due respect to West Coast, do you, after a loss like that, do you want to go up against a top side, or are you happy to go up against a side where you are probably expected to do some good things?
We go into planning mode no matter the performance we've put out there. In fact, often off a win, it's a tougher one to keep the group in a headspace. We're all human. When we don't get the job done, our guys are really hungry to find out why, to get to the bottom of what is often small margins. And trying to fix those small areas, and that's this week's been that focus. We touched on opposition with our players half an hour ago about what West Coast have been doing. Their game's been pretty consistent. I mean, I know everyone will talk outcome on the weekend. It was a win. Prior to that, they've been really, really solid. Their game's developing. They're a younger group. On the weekend, they played 4 quarters and beat a quality side. So we know we're going to have our work cut out for us.
Can you identify or tell us some of those little areas that you've identified that's a difference?
Oh, well, big one's red time. Well, last 5 minutes of a quarter for us. You go over the season, it's been an area of concern for us. We're just leaking goals late in quarters. So we're having a look at that from a structural point of view, modes we might be in at the time, and also a mindset. Where's our mindset at in those key moments? The games that we've lost, unfortunately, been where we've been at our worst in that space. So the weekend, I think we had 6 odd goals kicked, in the last 3 minutes of quarters. So it's a work on. It's a really important time in a game because momentum going into breaks. What you can do from a mental point of view. Our opposition get their tails up, and we've got to reset and start again. So it'll be an area this week we'll be focusing on for sure.
I think you put that on the agenda after the Fremantle game, and you mentioned it's been an area of concern for a long time. Is it a fatigue thing, and is it a little bit frustrating that you haven't been able to put your finger on or find a way to stop it?
Yeah, no, I think we understand what it is, and sometimes it's a concentration thing. Our players rotate enough during games. We're a fit group. We're a really fit group. It's your ability to see a quarter out, not be content with putting 22 odd minutes out on the park and then sort of limping your way into a break. So it's a concentration thing for us. Our guys have acknowledged they really want to work on it. Our leadership group have spent some time talking through it. So we'll put some things in place on the weekend that we hope won't take our focus away from what we do well, but we'll make sure that we're in the right headspace, come the end of a quarter.
Can you support that further from the coaching box in the moment?
Yeah, well, we'll do what we can to help. and there's things we look at as well as coaches on how we can help in that space. You know, are we contributing to that? We're always going to have a look at ourselves. But yeah, some of the things that we will go to, small triggers, we'll try and help the players with this weekend and go forward.
Sorry, do you think some of the things that went wrong last week are mere aberrations, such as the ranking shots for goal, Keys having one of his lower outputs, those little things won't happen again?
Well, key moments, yeah, real key moments. Accuracy on the weekend let us down, so our set shot, you know, our inability to put, I guess, score on the board, and then it goes down the other end and it's a 12-point turnaround, you know, which is substantial when you do that 3 or 4 times in a game. And I thought, to our opposition's credit, to Collingwood's credit, they did when they had their moment. You know, they knocked a couple in, or one in from outside 50, and in the end, that's the difference between a great side and a good side. We want to get to where they're at. We want to, you know, get it done in those key moments. You'll see some stuff today that we're trying to add in to build pressure on our group. It's hard to simulate a moment like you get in game in front of 60, 70 odd thousand, 30 out or 20 out dead in front of goal. But we'll do what we can today. Hopefully you'll see some pressure moments out there.
How far off do you think you are, Nixie, from becoming that great side?
Yeah, it's one of the frustrations for all of us is how close you feel you can be, and yet the reality of it is how far at times. It's not far at all. I think we've shown a pretty consistent brand this year. The games we have lost, we've lost a real quality opposition that have shown that they've continued to perform well and are sitting up the top of the ladder. But we know we've got a fair bit still to work on. We'll always have stuff to work on. I mean, you're never there. But the key for us is just getting that detail right and being able to step up when we really need it.
It was a shorter session early in the week, but Rory Laird finished about 20 minutes early. Is he all good to go this week?
Yeah, Lairdy's good to go. Lairdy's another one that we will keep an eye on, and we've been in discussions with him. He felt great this week. Felt really good on the MCG on the weekend. But there's a reality to the amount of footy that he's played over the years, and where his body's at. But at the moment, he's pumping out a pretty high level of footy.
Looks like the likelihood of rain has decreased, or you're never not sure what the bomb's going to throw up in relation to reality. But how does that affect your lineup going in? I mean, last year you played Riley Philthorpe as sub in the pouring rain, and it worked out for you. But does that affect that tools mix potentially? Yeah,
it does. We're always looking at what we feel is best. We just spoke about last week. Did we feel like we got that right? Last week we felt okay. This week looks a little more, I mean, there's a bit more wind coming through. Depends on what time that comes in. Our ability to keep our options open a little in that space. As we've mentioned before, we have guys that maybe from the outside, their perception is you can't play this guy in the wet, and they're actually very good. I thought Dan Curtin on the weekend, for a big lad, really showed he can play wet weather footy. So it's not necessarily just about size. There are guys that really adapt to a wet game, like to put their bodies on the line. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, it looks like being quite ragged this weekend. I don't think the wind's coming in. So we'll select a team accordingly.
If you do rest Tex, if you decide not to take him, who's the likely placement, or would you go mismatched in some other area?
Well, I think as we've talked about all year, we've got guys that are playing some of their best footy ready to come in. Now, it won't necessarily be, if we do manage Tex in the next couple of weeks, a like for like. It'll depend on conditions, it'll depend on our opposition. In saying that, Chris Burgess is playing some of his best footy. Pedler, over the last few weeks, has really shown his body feels great and he's able to perform. Cook's been solid for us this year. So if we do decide that Tex needs to be managed, it won't necessarily just be like for like.